Can I have your attention, please? We'll be starting up shortly. There we go. Get my mic. Good evening and welcome to the Lowell Planning Board for March 21st, 2022. The first matter on the agenda this evening will be the approval of the March 7th, 2022 minutes. Any of the board members have any questions or comments about the minutes for March 7th?
I just wanted to say I wasn't at the meeting, so I won't be voting on that.
Anybody have any comments?
Chairman, I also was not at that meeting, so I cannot vote on those minutes.
Okay. Anybody have any comments? Jerry, any questions on them?
No,
No?
Mr. Chairman, if none, I would make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any, and a couple of abstains, any opposition? Hearing none, those minutes are approved. Moving along, we have a site plan review for 4-8 Wiggin Street and 153 Willie Street. The applicant is seeking approval to construct a new 12-unit townhouse development at the above address. The property is located in the urban multifamily zoning district and requires site plan review approval from the planning board per section 11.4.2 and variance approvals from the zoning board of appeals pursuant to section 6.1 and section 5.1 and any other relief as requested under the Lowell zoning ordinance. The item will be on the planning board for tonight's meeting and it will be on March 28th for the zoning board meeting. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney George Theodoro, 133 Market Street, appearing for the applicant, Lynn Lowell, LLC. Mr. Philip Rienzi, the principal, is here tonight. As you stated, this is a proposed 12-unit residential development on a 15,000 square foot lot. The development will have two buildings. One building will comprise 7 units, and the front building, which is going to be located parallel with Willie Street, is going to comprise 5 units. They are all 2-bedroom condominiums, townhouse-style condominiums. The 7-unit building, which is placed towards the rear of the lot, and Matt will go forward that with you. He's here tonight to go through that. Each has a 1-car garage, as well as parking for an additional car in front of the garage, which is permissible stacked parking. The 5-unit structure, which is along Willie Street, we are going to be requesting a variance from the Board of Appeals. I might add that we are also constructing and making the improvements on Willie Street to locate a sidewalk there that will have the street parking on Willie Street, which is not there at the present time. And the sidewalk that we propose to build in the city right-of-way will extend from the existing edge of pavement into the lot line. The construction of the sidewalk, it's important to note, will not decrease the width of Willie Street at all. It will be the same width as it is right now. So we've given you an analysis there, a turning analysis there that shows that trucks can go down Willie Street and make a left onto Dutton Street. The history of this development right here goes back over a year ago when Lynn Lowell LLC entered into negotiations with the city of Lowell to purchase a parcel from the city of Lowell, 153 Willie Street. And part of that purchase was the purchase of a property that was taken by the city of Lowell in 1939. So this lot was underutilized going back, over 60 years, 70 years. The purchase of that lot has not been consummated yet, as the lot must be removed. The city lot must be removed from the acre revitalization plan to allow it to be developed privately. As a result, the city, DPD, is petitioning the Department of Housing and Community Development to remove that specific lot from the acre plan so that it could be sold to Lynn Lowell LLC for a price of $55,000. That's all in process right now. But what it also is in process, almost a year ago at this time, in March of 2021, I appeared before this board in presenting a zoning extension. And the zoning extension was to extend the urban multifamily zone into the light industrial. It was a small amount that we were moving into the light industrial, and it was determined by the planning board at that time in their recommendation to the city of Lowell that the ordinance met the goals and the objectives of the acre redevelopment plan, that the ordinance would maintain the intent of the zoning. So that was done and that was completed. Furthermore, from there, we went ahead and developed this proposal, worked with DPD so that we could build out something that could, number one, provide good quality housing to residents, and also in establishing the number of units that we went there. I think you've always heard this a number of times from applicants, and I've been guilty of it myself, in making an argument that we desperately need each one of these units. Well, in this case, when you go by and you take a look at that lot and you see what the elevation is, it's pretty much a hill. And it's pretty much a hill that has loaded with bedrock. So when you take a look at that, the elevation's loaded with bedrock, you make a determination, how are they going to, construct this and build it out? Well, the 15,000 square foot lot accommodates these 12 units. The zoning ordinance that is in place for urban multifamily is 1,000 square feet per residence, per land area, per unit. So we comply with the density requirements of the zoning ordinance in having 12 units of 15,000 square feet. There's been no issue with respect with that from planning and development. What we've had in feedback from DPD has been positive. The Jessica Wilson of the planning department, in her review of the presentation of the application and the narrative, indicated that the project aligns with the city goals, especially from an urban design perspective. It was her opinion that in designing this and having the garages face the rear and not face the street allowed for a nice streetscape, especially along Willie Street, where we're going to build out the sidewalk, where there currently is no sidewalk. It was her opinion and her opinion to the staff that the addition of 12 townhouse-style market-rate housing units will help the city fill in the missing middle housing that is contributing to the housing crisis. I think it's a strong proposal and will activate a long underutilized site. Those comments are all reiterated in the comments of the city in their comments, which they have presented and provided to all the members of the board. In addition to that, we received a letter in support from Ivani Baez-Rose, the Deputy Director of Planning and Development, in which she indicated her support for this proposal. That she indicated that the development of this area into housing, this lot into housing, is consistent with the acre urban renewal plan, and the existing site is underutilized, and that it will add value to the surrounding area. And she closes with the sentence that the construction of 12 new units of housing is another step towards addressing the important community need for housing. All of these sentiments were presented or placed in the comments from the DPD, which you have. And also, this is an area here that had no landscaping whatsoever, and the landscaping plan was presented, shows the number of trees that we're going to be putting into the site, which is important. And I think when you look at it, it's going to be a tremendous improvement, as everybody knows that a vacant lot serves no purpose. And these residents are going to have quality housing. They're going to be able to utilize the services in the area, and we ask for your support. Now I'd like to have Matt, he can briefly go through the site for you.
So for the record, Matt Hammer with Lamplex Engineering, 10 George Street in Lowell. So this is a very peculiar piece of land in the way that it's configured. You have Willie Street here. If you'll notice, the lot line comes over in this direction here, and the actual pavement's here. So it's not aligned with Wiggin Street. Wiggin Street is pretty steep as a roadway itself. It's narrow. We had looked at bringing an entrance into the center of the development from Wiggin, and it just was not feasible. Just to navigate yourself into the property, coming in and going out, and the steepness of the street, and the condition of the street, and the width of the street. So that was looked at, but that's here. There's a Habitat for Humanity across the street. There's some multifamily in the rear here. There's a natural colonial gas facility here, which they're doing a number of improvements to, and there's a auto body garage across the street in itself. The terrain comes from this hill down in this direction, and it's fairly steep, and it's essentially all bedrock on the property in itself. I think that's probably one of the reasons why it wasn't developed previously, because of the challenge to develop the parcel itself. And then this is Dutton Street down here. And this is sloping down in this direction towards Dutton Street. The proposal is to have two buildings. The entrance will come off of Willie Street, come into the development. This will be a 7-unit building, which will have garages that access each unit here. And then there'll be a garage that access each of the units in the 5-unit building here. The challenge with this project was the grade differential as you come down to Willie Street, and then you have the grade challenge coming down Willie Street in itself. So what we proposed is to on this side have a garage that actually steps down 8 feet, so the units come out right at the sidewalk area on Willie Street itself, like a townhouse style at the lot line. And on this side here, this is essentially a drive-under garage, and then when you come off the second floor, you come out onto this level here, which will be a patio area. So there's a 8-foot differential from here to here, coming across and then dropping down another 8 feet here. The architectural drawings that I handed out show you how that works. Here's Wiggin Street here. And this is showing us the units stepping their way down to which here, over here would be the entranceway. This is building number 2, the 5-unit building. And then these are the garages coming in, which would be on this access here. And these are the garages coming in and each of the units stepping down. This is looking at the garages and the access drive. Again, staggering their way up with garages going in to each of the units with a front entrance door. And then on the back side, when you come out of the back of the unit, they're going to have their own individual patio area coming off the back. And then what we're proposing in terms of landscaping is to put shade trees in through here and then along here. I know one of the questions on the trees was, well, how are you going to get the trees to grow in ledge? Well, essentially what happens is you overblast the site so that they'll be 4 or 5 feet below where the trees will be going, as well as all the utilities that have to service out of the site. So there'll be a layer of material at least 5 feet below the drive itself, which will encompass that landscaping area. And then what we have is retaining walls here, excuse me, to retain the soils back additionally from the site itself. Part of this proposal is to do sidewalk improvement here, and also to add 5 individual parking spaces on Willie Street itself. So this will be an entire roadway improvement within the right-of-way to Willie Street. And then I can answer any questions from the board, or if Attorney Theodoro wants to say anything additional.
No, thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Counselor, anything further on behalf of the applicant at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right, before I open up the public, as indicated, we did receive a few letters. Counselor did refer to 2 of them. We have 2 in favor and 1 against from Kazan Enterprise. That's a neighbor to the property. I'm just going to read all 3 of them. The first one is from Giovanni Baez-Rose, Deputy Director of Planning and Development. Dear Mr. Linehan and Planning Board members, I'm writing in support of the 4-8 Wiggin Street project proposed by Lynn Lowell LLC. The development of this area into housing is consistent with the existing acre urban renewal plan. The existing site is an underutilized piece of property which adds little value to the surrounding neighborhood. The city of Lowell and our surrounding region are experiencing a significant shortage of available housing opportunities. The construction of 12 new units of housing is another step forward addressing this important community need. As indicated, I stated Giovanni Baez-Rose, Deputy Director. Then we received a letter from Jess Wilson, the city's design planner. The applicant is a smart approach to development, a highly challenging site. I learned a lot from reading the narrative and agree that the project aligns with the city goals. From an urban design perspective, I appreciate that the parking is somewhat concealed between the two buildings and a new sidewalk added on Willie Street where there currently is none. A significant number of trees are shown on the site plan, which will contribute to the urban tree canopy and help combat the negative impacts of urban heat island effect. I don't see any building floor plans included with the application. If possible, I'd like to see some windows on the side elevations to avoid blank facades, especially along Wiggin Street. The addition of the 12 townhouse-style market-rate housing units will help the city fill in the missing middle housing that is contributing to the housing crisis. Overall, I think it is a strong proposal that will activate a long underutilized site. And then we have one from Alan Kazanjian. Dear Mr. Linehan and Planning Board members, this letter is regarding the proposed project located at Wiggin Street and Willie Street. I would like to go on the record as an opponent to this project for the following reasons. The first issue I see is that the project is that it is trying to squeeze too many units onto such a small lot. I feel as though the size and scope of the project does not fit in with the neighborhood character and will be detrimental to the existing businesses located in that area as well. I understand the need for housing in the city, but recent development in the area have started to trend of squeezing too many units onto residential lots. 65 Rock Street, for example. I feel as though the on-street parking being requested will be detrimental to the heavy vehicles used on that roadway which serve the existing businesses in that area. The area is very heavily used by heavy vehicles during the daytime hours. It brings into account safety issues with those parking spaces on the street. We do not oppose a housing project on the site, but a much scaled-down version to fit into the character of the neighborhood would be appropriate. To put 12 units on a housing lot of 11,000 square feet is excessive and should not set a precedent in the area. I have especially asked that the board take a good look at the site and scope of this project before rendering a decision of approval. I will be away traveling for the public hearing and cannot attend, but would like to have this letter served as my opposition on the project as it currently is being proposed. I plan on attending the zoning meeting on the 28th. I would like to thank you for your attention in this matter. Those are the letters that we received, and I believe all board members have a copy in their file. So at this time, I'll open it up to anybody who'd like to speak in favor of the project. Anybody in favor? In favor? Do we have anybody on Zoom, Fran? Wants to speak in favor? Oh, okay. Okay, hearing none, have in favor. Anybody in opposition? Anybody in opposition? In opposition? Hearing none. At this point in time, I'll open up to the board members, any questions and comments they might have.
I have a comment.
Sure, Mr.
And a
Lockhart.
question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
First of all, I admire your ability to take such an unusual lot in terms of, elevations and everything, and to build into design into a development like this. I'm totally in favor of it. I think it has the ability to send a message to that area maybe and move out in positive directions. So fully in favor of it. I do have one question on our documentation here. I'll read it. No, where is it? The proposal will span 3 lots, 4 Wiggin Street, 8 Wiggin Street, and 150 Willie Street. The combined square footage of the lots is 15,119 square feet. The applicant should be required to file an A&R to merge the lots. Is that Can you comment on that?
Yeah, so where you're not necessarily changing lot lines, sometimes you don't have to file an A&R, but we have no problem filing a plan of land A&R to show the consolidation of the lots after approval.
Okay, so if we conditioned.
And
Yep.
And if I could add on it, each one of these lots with respect to, and of course with the city assessor's office, 8 Wiggin Street was a separate lot, 153 Willie Street was a separate lot, and the 4 Wiggin Street was another separate lot.
Right.
So the city, for our purposes, wants us to combine that with an A&R plan.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lockhart. Any other board members?
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Mr. Fisher?
And again, I will echo Mr. Lockhart's comments. When we changed the zone on this site, the intent was to have this type of development on the site, recognizing that it was really consistent with what was in the immediate area of that lot, abutting that lot, because then you had basically Willie Street crossing the line, then it changed. But to take a lot that hasn't been on the tax rolls for the most part since the 1930s is, again, it's a win-win situation here. But I do have some questions with the site. The site is a challenge. I mean, it's scary just driving your car and going down Wiggin Street. So what I was looking for, Matt, I don't know if you have I was looking for a topo map with the plot plan on top of it, just so I can get a
Yeah,
feel.
we have that. You want to see that?
Yeah, because I
feel
didn't see it
for
in
it,
the
yeah.
package, and I might have missed it, but I'm just trying to get a sense from how the driveways will be angled and, oh, boy.
So, sorry to interrupt you.
No,
but-
no,
One of
I'm
the-
just commenting on how difficult it is.
Yeah, it was, this was a challenge,
Yeah.
but we like challenges. The nice thing about the sidewalk is that it's actually ADA compliant. As you said, it was steep. But this sidewalk configuration will actually be ADA compliant.
Do you know what the pitch is?
Well, this is 7%, and ADA is 8% at 25 feet.
Okay.
So, we show the interchanges of the sidewalk in relationship to coming in the stoops, coming into the front entranceway. But even though it is steep, when you look at it, if you take the hill away, now you're able to make this site compliant, and then whatever's left in the back gets taken away with a retaining wall, which actually isn't that big back here, actually, because the grades out back here are 120, 122, 124, 126, and this wall right here at the largest part would be 6 feet, and
Now,
then
if
it
you
goes
would like-
down to nothing.
Could you bring the that map over here?
Yeah, it should be on your plan set on sheet 4.
It wasn't in the prints, but it was in the digital material.
I didn't see it in the, I didn't see it in the material.
Plan sets.
Matt, I have a question. It's just related to a comment you just made. The sidewalk along, I think it's Willie Street?
Yeah.
Willie Street is compliant, but is it compliant going all the way up
No.
where the drive is? It's not, yeah,
No,
just along the
just,
frontage.
just along in the public right-of-way,
So
which is
You
important.
can see how it turns up, and that's not compliant. That's probably, do you know what the slope is there? I don't think it was noted on the plan.
Are you talking about coming up into the site here?
Yes.
Yeah, I can answer that. It might be compliant, actually. I just have to check the grades.
So Matt, on the garages, the driveways, so the driveways will be, I'm just getting a sense of, trying to get a whole sense of that site. So the driveways are, when the garage door closes, is actually level.
Coming in here?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then when you come out into the driveway, what's going on with the driveway?
So let me give you an idea. So from the garage slab in the garage,
Yep.
it's 1 foot out to the end of the parking area. So that's 1 foot over 20 feet.
One, that's all.
Okay.
So that,
All right, just trying to get a sense for how that's going.
these ones are more level here, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay. So how much of that hill are you taking, how much are you coming down?
Mostly all of it, except for where the downslope is here. You essentially have to take this, to get in this garage, these garages, you essentially have to take out the whole hill.
Okay. That's what I was trying to get a handle on.
Get right down.
And Sinead, to answer your question, coming in here, 30 feet, you're raising in grade approximately 2 feet. So it's not that steep.
So that's why, so we've got Wiggins over here, and then this is parallel with Willie, and that's where you're taking that, on the left-hand side of that lot, as we look at it from Willie, is what you're taking down.
Yeah, these are great perspectives to
Yeah.
give you an idea
Yeah,
to what's happening, because essentially the entire hill gets displaced by townhouses. Foundation walls to those townhouses coming in those garages takes out that hill, because you have to take that material away.
Now, and I'm sure that the city stormwater management team, how is that being?
Yep, we've met with them on 2 separate occasions.
Yeah.
We did a lot of upfront vetting out of everything before we got too far deep into this
Sure.
project. So the first people we spoke to was obviously DPD department
Yeah,
in concept and density and generally what we wanted to do, but also talking to Mike Stewart down at the wastewater division, talking about stormwater. So obviously we can't infiltrate any stormwater into bedrock.
yeah,
So
right,
we come down, clean the water, and then discharge to the existing sewer manhole down in the street. And then we're gonna implement we're gonna attempt to implement an impact fee for that direct connection.
okay,
So the wastewater group or the stormwater team, what you try to do is try to get any treatment infiltration you can on site, but if you can't, then the last alternative is to connect into the city system.
okay.
yeah.
Now, and again, I think there's a railroad nearby.
It's down
Counselor,
here.
are there any environmental issues with the site where you're gonna do so much disturbance to the,
No, it's just rock.
so, yeah, so there wasn't,
Yeah.
not a lot to get
Not a
contaminated?
lot of
is
soil,
that-
no.
No, but normally when you get on the shoulders and in part of the railroad right-of-way, there's tends to be issues related to that railroad right-of-way, but that's over here.
Okay,
And then we have National Grid here,
okay,
yeah.
Yeah,
And then this is a higher pollutant load type use in across the street, but they're down gradient.
right, because everything's flowing down from your site.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then this is a multifamily residential development up here.
wow, I hope you have a contingency in your site budget.
Well, that's what it is. It probably over time wasn't worth doing.
Yeah,
So now that the home values have gone up
right,
and you can, and now it justifies removing that material and putting in the housing, it now balances out to be worth doing.
and now, is there gonna be a lot of, how are we gonna be blasting?
Yeah, there'll be blasting, whatever is necessary to remove the material over there. They have some heavy-duty, what do they call them, Matt? Not excavators or
There's
chippers?
essentially a hammer on the outside of at the end of a large excavator machinery that can chip the ledge away and if they can't chip it away, then they would blast. So when they blast, they do a pre-blast survey where they go into the adjoining residences.
That's what I'm
They
asking.
take photos of all the foundations and the outside of the buildings. They do this all the time.
Right.
And they do the blast, and they do a post-blast survey to ensure that there was no structural cracks or anything
Right.
in the integrity of those buildings that were compromised by the blasting.
Right. And just to clarify, I know one of the letters that were read, talking about the density, and Council, you're correct. And I always like to quote, we can quote the zoning ordinance, page 34, when you look at the table, dimensional requirements in the UMF zone, it's 1,000 square feet. Land area per dwelling unit, 1,000 square feet. So, and we're 15,000, over 15,000 square feet, and you're looking at 12 units. So,
12
yeah,
units,
yeah.
right, which
So, yeah.
complies.
And very, very rarely does anybody go to the ZBA requiring a variance. Does it actually meet the technical definition of the, right, the
I'd have to agree with
topography
you
of
on
the
that.
lot and the challenges that presents?
I think the
requi-
topography.
Right, and results in a variance. Most variances that are requested are not legal variances.
That's your definition.
So this is one of the true definitions of a site that
Yeah.
may require variance, so, just for anybody that really follows any of that. Just want to refer to the letter from DPD, so we can just kind of
The
knock.
engineering comments?
That was from the March 11th,
Yep.
from Dylan Ricker.
Right.
And, so that was, as Mr. Lockhart referred to, as far as the A&R proposed condition. So I guess I still looking for clarification on that. Is that what the city's recommending, Fran? Is that they shall file an A&R to merge?
Yes, it just makes it cleaner.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah, so DPD, we had one project not too long ago where there's a provision when you consolidate lots into one and change a permit
Right.
related to those lots, then it's justified to do that plan of land A&R to consolidate those lots. If you were to hold 4 lots and you were just doing a single family, you wouldn't need to do that. But now that we're consolidating 3 separate lots and it's now gonna be under a special permit, that justifies, I guess, doing the consolidation of the A&R.
And then there was a comment on 9C, and just, and I thought that was worthy of asking the question, you know, the natural tendency of a human being here on the condos that would be directly on Willie Street, where they do not have parking behind the garages, is, I mean, the tendency where there's a bump out, the tendency may be for somebody to pull in over there, is there?
Yeah,
Well-
I think it's someone's would attempt to park there. I think what we would probably have to do in the condominium documents and put some type of governing device in there for perhaps some type of penalty or sanction. And have them manage that over a period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because basically, anybody buying those units, you would have one approved parking spot in the garage, and you would have a spot on the street, is basically available to you.
Available.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it would be reasonable in the condominium documents that, if you have your groceries, you
Yep.
come into your unit.
right,
You can park there for about 15, 20 minutes.
Yep.
Unload all the things that you need to unload, and then you
I
gotta,
have that.
yeah.
A-
But
and-
they have a garage, though, so.
Yeah.
They
no,
do have a
understood.
garage, and one thing we will explore to see if we can get any resident parking stickers there.
Sure,
We will explore that to see if that's available, and
Right.
permissible.
because I did like, and it's perfect, the idea that you are recessing the parking so that it's not narrowing the street.
That is correct.
And then when you look across the street, there's no parking signs across that fence, so that should keep that clear, which is good. And then I know there was the comment about the windows on the
Oh, yeah.
on the gable ends of the, you know, Jessica's, yeah, Jessica's letter.
That's right.
Yeah, we most certainly can add
Windows
windows
on the side
into
of
the
the
end of this unit.
Yeah, that would, I think that would add,
Yeah.
yeah. And then on the other gable end, that's facing the residents, the homes on the,
No, that's facing
oh, no, no, that's
Colonial Gas.
Colonial Gas.
And we can put windows over there if it's desired too. I don't, you know.
I just think it has a better look.
Yeah.
Rather than looking at a blank wall.
Right.
It always has a better
Yeah.
look to,
No, I haven't looked at the floor
Put a
plan, 'cause
window.
we've run into that before on this board,
Yeah.
yeah.
whether that fits into the floor plan.
If we can fit it, in
Yeah.
like sometimes, you're right, we can't
Yeah.
fit it into the floor plan.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But
It looks
definitely
like
on-
it's bedrooms
on
and
Wiggin.
eating areas, so it looks like it'll fit
Right.
on both ends.
And, yeah.
If I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just wanted to note that this property is in the Acre Neighborhood
Oh, yeah.
District, so it will be subject to historic board review, and they'll be doing design review
Good, okay.
on this development.
That's good.
So I'm sure they'll have standards for the windows and things like
Yeah.
that.
Thank you, Fran.
That's good, yep.
Yeah, and I can add that this filing was sent to Mr. Steve Stoll. When this was done, we sent it to Mr. Stoll, and at the outset, going back over a year and a half ago, there was an initial meeting with him. And so there is design review to go through with the historic board.
Okay, good. Good, no,
This
that's.
would be subject to the historic board.
Yeah, gotta go there.
No, it's an urban style development, and I you know, I applaud you for trying to develop that and come up with something that fits really an urban development in respect. We did this with the old Mother Hubbard with the, I do love the units that are on the street that actually have, you know, rather than the garages, that have the walkout, the front entrance, as
Yeah.
a town residence, so.
And this project is relatively close walk to get to the train station too. I mean, even though you have to walk down, it's just outside of that fringe where it's allowed with that 1,400.
Right.
So you'll find that people will walk,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
to get
Well, they will,
public transportation.
when it's all done, they will have a very nice boulevard to basically walk down.
Yeah, there's a bus station at the Market Basket on Broadway,
Yep.
and there's another bus station going down the other end at the Textile Museum on Dutton Street.
Okay, yep.
So those are walkable areas.
And then I guess one other issue on the snow storage. I know you've got some landscape areas, so if you could just touch base on the snow storage, appreciate that.
I'm gonna block that. I don't know.
So the snow storage is limited. We have snow storage here for the, you know, the shoveling of the walkways and the driveways here on either side. The snow storage along here and in this location here. One of the things we could do is remove this little bump out here, and we could gain some more snow storage along here. And then the snow's gonna have to be removed from the site.
Take it away.
Yep.
Yeah, that's something we can easily accommodate, is to remove the, because it could be kind of tight with a lot of snow in there. Is to remove it from the site as needed.
And again, just for clarity, these are to be sold as condominiums,
That is correct.
with a condominium association in place. Yep.
Yes.
Good. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fischett. Shanae or Russell, any comments?
I do have a few
Go
clarifying
ahead, Sinead.
questions and comments. My first one is, this is more maybe a question for staff. Is there a requirement for usable open space in this zoning district?
I can double check that.
Okay, I don't think that there is, but I do appreciate that there is a number of trees that are identified on the plan, so I just wanted to comment on that and say thank you for that. But I don't think that there's a usable open space requirement, but I just wanted to clarify that. And then I do have a few design comments. I agree with staff and with Mr. Frichette's comments about the windows on either sides, what you're calling the left and the right elevations, in the bedrooms and in the, I think it's like a dining and eating space. And then the other thing, I know that you said that it'll be reviewed by historic board for design review, but I did want to make a few comments on the design. I think it's because of the sloping of the site and the stepped foundation, but there is kind of an articulation of the units in the roof structure. So you can see all of the units are kind of stepping, both, you know, the 5 on one side and the 7 on the other side. I'd really like to see some kind of articulation in the facade as well. I think because it's articulating in the roof, it's a little strange that it's not articulating in the facade. So whether that's through material selection or through the structure itself, if it moves a little bit, I think that that would be a big improvement on the design. And I think that's true in my perspective, that's true for both the front and rear elevations of both buildings.
Sure, so I believe what you're saying is that we could change material types, for instance, from the garage facade to the second floor facade, just to get a change in materials, is that?
I'm actually talking about unit to unit. So you can see how on the roof lines, it's like you can see each unit, but it doesn't carry down to the elevation itself. So it's actually more of like a vertical change.
To define each unit.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And either through material or if like there was a bump out, say on one unit and a step back on the other. So there was a little bit of relief between 2 units.
Yeah, I mean, we can make those recommendations or we could put that in writing as a recommendation to historic and see how they feel about that. And we have no problem changing siding materials.
No, again, it's the exterior design review is going to be in the jurisdiction of the historic board. We can certainly make that recommendation. I know they're going to have their fingerprints on this and I think it's going to look better. I think it's going to look better if we do that. We've seen that in the past about staggering the roof lines and also the front of each one of the units. We've seen that in the past. So we can make that suggestion.
Thank you.
And then if I may, I did just double check on the usable open space and there is no requirement in that district.
Thank you, Fran. And then I think that the applicant has already said that they would do this, but if the sidewalks that you're proposing be fully compliant with detectable warnings, everything like that.
Yeah, that was also a recommendation from the engineering department.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then one other piece from the engineering report is they did note that it's on unit 12. There are 2 steps up to the unit from the street
Yep.
side, but I think it's like an 18-inch grade change. So I think just kind of making sure that that's addressed during design.
Yeah, so the way we were going to address that, that transitional element from the sidewalk into the unit was to recess the entranceway so that the step happens within the recessed entranceway itself. Or we would obtain an easement from the city to allow a step within their right-of-way. But we do have a solution for it. We just haven't gone through that detail yet with the city.
All right, that's all. Everything else has been addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sinead. Now, Russell, any comment, question?
Just one question about the memo from engineering, or from DPD, specifically the engineering comments. Just in general, have you reviewed those and the requirements that engineering stipulated? Nothing is of concern for this development?
No, we actually had a preliminary meeting with them already, so we were expecting some of those comments from that meeting that we had, but there was nothing in those comments that we felt as though couldn't be accommodated within the design. We're actually making the modifications now. We didn't want to come in with a slightly different plan because the changes were going to be subtle, but they're meant to, the new plan change will incorporate all the comments from engineering and Mr. Dylan Riker from DPD in his letter, March 11th letter.
Okay. In general, I think it's really impressive what you're doing with the site there. It's dense housing, but it's in a walkable urban neighborhood. And yeah, I think housing of that kind is needed in this community.
Yeah, and we also did some sidewalk improvements on Dutton as well. So there are sidewalks being implemented along Dutton that'll connect to this area as well.
Anything further, Russell? We all set?
Yeah, Chairman, I'm all set.
Okay,
Thank you.
very much. I believe we have Caleb and Bob on remote. Does anyone have any comments there, Bob or Caleb?
Mr. Chairman, I think this is a great project. I think they are really turning over a bad lot into something good. They're providing housing, which we sorely need. All my other comments were addressed by brought up by other members. I'm satisfied with this project.
Thank you, Mr. Malovich. Caleb, any questions, comments?
Hi, Chairman. So I concur with the board that this is a good use for a lot that is challenging. However, I do have a concern about connectivity regarding the pedestrian access that is between the new sidewalk and Rock Street. And I do want to explore the possibility that the applicant will contribute to completing this pedestrian access to Rock Street. And I have some reasons that that I think will support such a request. So bear with me on that one. If you look at the lot, and I agree with the rest of the board that the density fits the zoning that's required, so that's not a concern there. However, I mean, with the variance that you're seeking, particularly with parking spaces, you can see that certainly the lot cannot fit all of the things that's required on the property. And so you find a creative way to provide these space on public right of way, which is city land. And I understand that the parking space is not exclusive, so you're doing the city a service of providing them. However, I mean, as I always address situation where parking spaces is, there's a request to waive from properties. Before I mentioned about demand management plans, transportation demand management plans, but in this case, since they are condos, so I don't see that working as well. And I will agree that your proposal to create a pedestrian sidewalk is a great one because it is certainly walkable to even to Dutton Street down the other end, and also on Rock Street to the neighborhood to Market Basket. But I look at the site and I see the cars parking like just a block up and or along the sidewalk, and so if I lived there, I wouldn't feel safe for walking down the street, and so that's why and another point I want to make is also I think, and the board member just mentioned that you put two steps onto the city public right of way to access Unit 12. So you're using, again, public land for making this plan works. And so I would think that that's justified a request that you contribute part of, a project to complete at least the sidewalk all the way to Brock Street. I mean, it's another block. And I mean, I'm not an expert in looking at the cost, but I will think that, you know, maybe 50% or a certain amount that will be reasonable to like both justify your use of the right of way to make this plan work, and also justify the pedestrian accessibility. Complete sidewalk all the way to Rock Street will I think justify that you have 5 less space than required on site. So I would want to both ask the board maybe for input, and also whether the applicant is amendable to such a request.
Thank you for your comments. Through you, Mr. Chairman,
Absolutely, counsel.
I just want to, I have a question of, where are you, kind of confused of, where are you proposing to have sidewalks installed?
Just to clarify, so that will be between Wiggin Street and Rock Street on the same side of the sidewalk within the public right of way.
Yeah, I don't see that being justified. It's, I think it's a bit of overreaching. I don't think that in what we're proposing here, in building out the sidewalk in front of the site, in making those improvements, which is part of what is involved in every planning board process, where the city, the planning department, and working through the developer would always ask for city improvements to allow this to go forward. And that is exactly what we're doing. We're creating a sidewalk in front there. To extend it beyond that, I think is asking for a little bit more. If we would want to make a crosswalk, a painted crosswalk, that would be something different. But I think that's given the cost of this project and the difficulty of the project, I think the building out more of the sidewalk that we have there is more than we can bear, really.
And that's a steep grade going up there too.
Okay, thank you for your response. I just think that, like, you build a sidewalk here and you're asking to waive 5 parking space. And we know that most likely these 2-bedroom houses will have more than 1 car. And so you're contributing on-street parking demand. And so and unless, I guess, suggesting a transportation management plan to address asking the landowners, homeowners, to not have 2 cars is not really realistic. And so I think, I don't think it's an overreach. I think it's, you are putting parking demand on the street, and then they will also interfere with the pedestrian access, down up the street as well. And so that's my opinion, and I appreciate your response, and I just want to see what the other planning board might think.
And we have no way of quantifying the cost, given the grade over there for the sidewalk. In making the application with the Zoning Board of Appeals, we are making it based upon the site itself and the merits of the site, the topography, the cost, the expense. And so with all due respect, I think that we're putting a significant investment into the site in order to produce some quality urban housing.
And the cost to purchase this parcel.
Yeah, and to maintain the cost that's going to be reasonable for the buyers down the road. We can't pass, and to consider that we can't pass all these costs on to the purchaser, the end user of the property.
Well, thank you. I certainly understand your perspective, but you are using public land to make your plan work. I'm just making that point. I mean, if you set back your house a little bit, that will, you'll move these needs or requirements out of the public land. But but of course, I understand that your driveway is pretty limited in width to work with. So I see why the plan is the way it is, but I still have to make the point that you are using public land for your plan to work.
Right, you are correct, we're using public land, we're building out those spaces to make this work. At the same time, going back over 2 years on this project, we're going to be purchasing a lot, 153 Willie Street, from the city of Lowell at a cost of $55,000. So that's another investment that we're making with the city by purchasing the lot, and we're making that investment to make this work, and we're going through all the procedures with the city to purchase it. In the materials, you have the vote from the city council to make this property surplus property. You have the vote of the city council in which they determine a value of this property at $55,000, and an agreement to sell this property to my client. It hasn't been sold yet, but that's going to be sold. So I can think in terms of we are making an investment, an additional investment to the city by doing that.
Oh, Chairman, I'll give the I guess the right back to you for now. I mean, I understand the differences we have in opinion.
Thank you, Caleb. You have anything further, Caleb, or that sums it up?
I think at this moment I don't have anything more to add.
Okay, thank you. I just have a few comments because actually going last, everybody else has asked a lot of questions. But I'm just going to go back and ask the question about the 5 parking spaces in front. So can you explain that to me, Matt, a little better? So, I mean, there.
Sure.
So, I mean.
So there's a parking, sorry,
See
go
where
ahead.
they are. So what, they're on the street, right? So there's a city parking spot.
Yes.
So when you put them on plan, what do? You just making room for them, or how are they designated? I mean, I can see them here, but compared to being on the street, how does?
Well, we're asking for a variance to the parking calculation.
So they can just park on the street?
So if you live in one of these units,
Right.
and these spaces are available, and you need that space, you have a space in your garage.
Okay. Right, I got that.
Okay.
So basically,
It's just more likely that they would be available to the owners of these units
they're
because.
not technically assigned to anybody, is what I'm.
Correct. We're going to request that they are.
What we're going to do is,
I heard you say you want the stickers.
we're going to request some resident parking.
Right.
But as it stands,
Yeah.
when we build those out, make those improvements, right, when that's done, just by the virtue of doing that, they're not assigned
Right.
to those units.
Okay, so you're gonna make the room for them and everything else for those parking spots, but they're not
Right.
per se assigned to that project, so it's whoever gets there first gets to use them.
Right.
Yeah, even if it's a sticker in the neighborhood, right? So if it's.
Yeah,
something that's-
right, even another sticker in the neighborhood, yes.
Okay.
And this is an auto body
Yep.
shop over here.
Because we've had a lot of development in the area, as well as council knows, down the street, on Rock Street, Dutton Street, we've had 2 developments. Rock Street, we've had a couple, McKittrick's we had, then across at, the bar room that you were in on, so we don't, the neighborhood's been before it's quite a bit in the last year or 2.
So the thought process was, during the day, most folks leave
And
and go somewhere. During the day, this is more active
Yep.
here across the street. And then in the evening,
I got you.
this dies down, and then we feel as though that those spaces will
I was
be
gonna say, I
likely
know that It's
available.
not on your property, but they're designed, you know what I'm saying? So it's not really, it's a public street that they're gonna be on, so it's
Right.
not really per se, it's a sign, but it's okay. I didn't see any comments from the fire department, so, where's your closest hydrant? I looked quickly in the plan, but I didn't pull it up, because some of them are, because obviously, I don't know if the fire department would even pull in there or just service it from the street, you think, Matt? Or-
So, we're bringing water in off of here. We're gonna have a hydrant brought in and put right here.
Okay. Oh, so coming in the drive?
Well, the water line's gonna come out here to
Okay.
Wiggin, but the termination of it, there'll be a hydrant right here.
Okay. Which is basically, okay, to the left of the plan, almost,
Right here.
Okay.
Yep, left of the entrance.
okay. Because most likely, like I said, I didn't see something in the fire department, but usually something like this, I imagine, they would probably fight it from the street, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and if they wanted a hydrant off of here during the municipal review, through the city, we most certainly could do that.
So you'd have no problem with whatever the.
Whatever the fire department
Yes,
would
for
need on that,
hydrants,
yeah.
Okay. Fire department, go to the land. So I know we got this one plan late today, which is the, what's this, the turning, the one with the red
Yeah,
stripes
the
that we got
truck
tonight?
turn.
Yeah, so that was a plan that
We
we
just got today. Could you just go over that briefly for me?
so that plan was created in response to the Kazanjian letter.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
'Cause-
So this is on the street?
So the
I got-
Kazanjian letter specifically spoke to whether a vehicle can maneuver themselves in and out of the roadway. And what we're showing there is that the roadway actually, the way that it is now, is not going to change. But we wanted to show how a school bus-sized vehicle
Yeah,
can navigate their way to the intersection of Dutton. And that was the purpose of the plan. Just to show that there's plenty of room.
Okay, all right. 'Cause I know we got this late this afternoon, and I had on my phone, I was trying to look at it before we got it this evening. Okay. And so what, we approved the two houses to the right of that, at the bottom of the hill, right?
Right.
That you brought in before?
Yeah, I didn't do those, but those were Habitat for the
Oh,
Humanity.
that's right, Habitat did
Yep.
that, okay. Yeah, I remember them coming in, right, okay.
Right.
yeah.
I think also related to that comment, or your observation about the turning radius plan, is that, if somebody is along that road now, they park on the side of the road. Just the way it is today, which reduces the amount of pavement to be utilized. With this improvement, they'll now be subjected to take themselves off of the edge of the pavement into one of these 5 spaces. So it's actually going to widen the use of Wiggin to the intersection of Dutton.
Yeah, 'cause a lot of people are parking a lot of different ways up in that.
Yeah, no, they do.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Because what happens is it goes pavement, a little bit of shoulder, and then it jumps up in grade immediately. Well, what's gonna happen now is there's gonna be 8 feet of width off the edge of that pavement to the creation of these parking spaces.
I got you, okay.
So all that material is gonna be taken out from the edge of the pavement in,
I see.
which will give you more room on Wiggin, excuse me, I get the two mixed up. So on Willie, I'm sorry.
Yep.
On Willie,
Yep,
there's gonna be more available room of the use of the pavement, because we're gonna be adding 8 feet of pavement for the creation of those parking spaces. And we're gonna be adding a little bit of landscaped area and the sidewalk as well.
yeah, because when you look at it, I see your shade tree there, and that's when I saw the parking there, and I'm like, okay.
But that, if you'll notice on that colored plan,
Yes,
that it shows the edge of the existing pavement that's there now,
oh, yes, okay, yeah,
right?
okay, yeah,
So this is the existing edge of the pavement.
right, yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see where it says edge of pavement right below the,
Yep.
the red printing of proposed parking spaces to be located beyond the existing edge, okay.
And then what we're doing is we're being we're respecting this utility pole that's there and creating a little island around that.
Okay. I'm sorry.
So that doesn't have to be moved.
Okay. I have no further questions at this time. Any of the board members have any further questions as a result of discussion by other board members?
I have none.
None? I mean, like, so all we have for this matter, it's just the site plan, no special permit at all, just the site plan.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the proposal with the following conditions. The applicant shall file an A&R to merge the 3 lots, 4 Wiggin Street, 8 Wiggin Street, and 153 Willie Street. The applicant will address potential parking issues relative to Building 1 in the condominium documents. The applicant shall remove any snow which cannot be stored on-site to an off-site location. The applicant will comply with stormwater review team's requirements. The applicant will comply with requirements set forth in the memo of March 11th by the city's engineering department.
Yep.
The proposal is subject to final approval by this City of Lowell's Fire Department. Final landscape plan will be subject to approval by DPD. I just think as this develops, there might be some evolution with that.
Especially with the ledge.
Yeah.
That may change things a
I
little
mean,
bit.
I know what you're gonna do with
Yeah.
it, bringing it down further, but just
Yeah.
maybe some modification with that. And I would just say that in the approval, a recommendation from planning board to work with the historic board to address the windows on the gable end of the,
In the vertical separation.
in the vertical separation, yes.
Of the
Yes.
articulation.
Yeah, usually we do a site plan review and a special permit on a project of this size, and we do have some influence on design, but this is just strictly site plan review. So, Mr. Chairman, that would be my motion.
I would second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, which is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion carries. The site plan has been approved.
Thank you
Good luck.
so much,
Thank you
everyone.
very much.
Good luck.
Interesting to see how it comes out. Okay, moving along on the agenda, we have a pre-application discussion. 190 and 198 Plain Street. Lowell Development LLC has applied for pre-application discussion of plans to redevelop the existing properties at the above address into 2 restaurants. The properties currently include a VFW Lodge and a parking area for the VFW Lodge. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing building at 190 Plain Street and construct a Popeyes chicken restaurant and construct a similar restaurant on the 198 Plain Street lot. The applicant is proposing drive-through service on both restaurants. The subject property is located in a regional retail zoning district. The applicant requires special permit approval for Article 12 and Section 11.3 to construct a drive-through serving a restaurant, and site plan review approval per Section 11.4 for construction of a drive-through service. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Yes, thank you, and good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For the record, my name is Attorney John Geary of the law offices of Geary and Geary LLP, located at 32 Church Street, Lowell, Mass. I'm here tonight representing the development group, which currently has 190 and 198 Plain Street under agreement with the VFW, which is the current owner of those properties. With us tonight is Lawrence Van Bassett, the Director of Development for the applicant, and Jim DeSalle of DeSalle Burke, the engineer for the project. As the chairman mentioned, this is a pre-hearing relative to the redevelopment of what is now known as the VFW property on Plain Street. We've provided the board with a brief narrative regarding the project, a very preliminary site plan, an elevation plan of the Popeyes building, as well as a preliminary floor plan for that building. The applicant is proposing to redevelop 190 and 198 Plain Street from its current use as a VFW lodge to 2 restaurants, both with dine-in options and drive-through windows. And as we know with this type of business, the drive-through windows are a key component to these restaurants. The properties are located within the regional retail zoning district. The combined square footage of the lots is approximately 87,828 square feet of land. And as I mentioned, the development plan is to construct 2 restaurants on these parcels, approximately as depicted on our site plan, which Jim will review with you in a few minutes. But at the 190 Plain Street site, the applicant is proposing to construct a 2,112 square foot building, which will be the site of a Popeyes chicken restaurant. At the 198 Plain Street site, the applicant's proposing to construct a slightly larger building, 2,533 square feet. The specific restaurant chain for this building is yet to be identified, but the applicant is working toward that. As the chairman mentioned, we are required to receive a site plan approval and special permit and site plan approval pursuant to the ordinance. We do not believe that we're going to need any relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals for this proposal. In order to construct the new building at the 190 Plain Street site, we're going to have to demolish the existing VFW lodge to make way for the new building. The parking lot area at 198 Plain Street will also be excavated to make way for the building on that lot. We believe that there'll be ample parking for both businesses. These parcels are adjacent to the Lowell Car Wash facility, or the Lowell Car Wash business, and across the street from the Meadowbrook Center, also known as the Target Plaza, and just a couple of 100 feet from the on and off ramps to the Lowell Connector at Plain Street. The lots are primarily surrounded by commercial businesses and properties, with the exception of some residential dwellings to the south of the 198 Plain Street site. 190 Plain Street is also adjacent to the proposed realignment of Tanner Street, which is currently proposed to be relocated between the Lowell Car Wash and the 190 Plain Street parcel. We've had a department head meeting, and we've had a meeting with the economic development team to get some input on our development and to try to coordinate that our development with the realignment plans for Tanner Street. It's proven to be a little bit difficult just because of the timing, but based upon my last conversation with the team leader for the city, which was earlier this afternoon, the city expects to start construction in August of this year for the realignment of Tanner Street, which will start right at that point between the Gold Car Wash and 190 Plain Street. And Jim will show you that as he goes through the plans. This is important for our proposal because we really can't finish our engineering until the city finalizes their plan. So if the city stays on track with its timeline, which is to start in August, they'd have the plans finalized probably by late May, and that would work out well with our design plans as well. But in any event, as I said, Jim will review that process as he goes through the site plan. We received and we reviewed the DPD staff comments, which were mostly favorable. The primary concern seems to be that of the traffic impacts that this development or this proposal may have on the area. You know, in lieu of that, we've retained or will be retaining Jeffrey Dirk of Vanessa and Associates to do a traffic impact study for us. And we can hope to share those results with the board and address any traffic impacts that this proposal might have. Ultimately, the proposal fits the character of the neighborhood, which includes a significant amount of commercial businesses and activity. The proposal will bring a significant amount of tax revenue to the city, and it allows for the redevelopment of these underutilized lots. So at this point, I'll turn the presentation over to Jim so he can go through the plans that we have shared with the board, and then we'll go from there. Jim?
Hi, my name's Jim DeSalle from DeSalle, Burke, Fowler and Associates from Quincy, Massachusetts. I'm here on behalf of the applicant to prepare some, we prepared some basic engineering plans. Obviously, until we get the final decision on what the new Tanner Street relocation is going to be finalized as, we can't finalize our drainage and such, but these are just the concepts. I'd like to be able to share my screen if possible. Can we see that?
No, we can't. We don't see any plans, Jim.
There we go.
We got that?
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay, so this is the property as it exists right now. Sorry, let me see if I can get it any better. We have Plain Street down here, the VFW in this location, the excess parking for the VFW. This has some striping in it, but it's so faded, you can't really tell where anything is. And actually, this piece of property, I believe, has been conveyed over to the city for the new location of Tanner Street. But this whole area in here this is all paved. So if you notice, there's very small areas of this site that's actually has any landscaping on it, with just some pine trees in the back, and then just some scrub along this edge here in a fence. There's a large retaining wall over here, which will be obviously moved with the relocation of Tanner Street. And looking at the property now, this section of Eaton Street is a private way right now, and this section of Montreal Street, the city has already, I believe, abandoned the city rights to it, although there still may be other rights as a private way by others in the neighborhood back here. Excuse me. This building will be obviously torn down, and the Popeyes will go here. The second building would go over on this side, and we would maintain access through on Eaton Street. This lot's 23,000 square feet. This lot over here, which is the parking lot, is 51,000 square feet. And then I think there's like another 13,000 square feet between these, or 12,000 square feet between these two parcels that are part of the private ways. I can switch out and open up the proposed. See the can you see the proposed yet?
Mm-hmm.
You can, this is the proposed, you can see that? Okay, great, thank you. So the new Tanner Street will be over here. The section of Montreal Street, which pretty much ends right here, will be extended down into here. What we propose is an entrance to come in here. The double lane stacked Popeyes drive-through will come through here. These vehicles are actually sketched out at like an SUV sized, like a Toyota I'm sorry, like a Toyota 4Runner size. So we're pretty sure that these, the queuing will prove to have at least 10 spaces. And obviously we're going to have a traffic engineer that will provide all the pertinent information based on that. There's traffic signals here. So we'll have the traffic come through here and around the building. Right now, I propose a handicap space here, 2 spaces along parallel Plain Street here, and 8 spaces over here. So technically, there are 11 spaces that go with this Popeyes. And reading the planning report, that's the requirement for this slot here. This space over here, we have well in excess of the 13 spaces required. The planning department had recommended maybe getting rid of these spaces here to get more green space, which we have no problem with. This parking over in here, between here and in here, would handle this building. And we had proposed that these spaces in here would be used in common by whichever restaurant needed, additional parking. The traffic flow would come in here. There's 2 lanes of drive-through. There's a drive around when you can come out through here, go back out this way and, go up to the lights or take a left and go on your way out in this direction. As you see, there's a lot more green space in this scenario. And if we get rid of these spaces here, there'll be a lot more. There will be a detailed landscape plan provided that will meet the requirements of the 1 tree per every 2,000 square feet of asphalt. And as you see, until we figure out exactly what the final grading is going to be in this area here, we believe, based on the preliminary plans, that we won't need any walls, but there may be a small wall required down in this area here. But until the final plans are submitted, we can't determine that. And the same thing with the drainage. We'll be working on the drainage. We'll have the ability to put in some subsurface drainage here and maybe some overflows into the the city system. But until we know exactly what's going on with the drainage in this area, we can't really analyze it yet. So what we were trying to do was just give you our preliminary thoughts on how we want to develop this site, so that we can at least get some feedback. So if there's anything we can tweak that the board would, like to see, we can handle it in the early stages before we get into the minutia of the design. If there's any questions, I can show you actually the design of the building, at least of the Popeyes. This is what the Popeyes, what they look like. The drive-through on the left side, and then it comes up back out around out through here, and then we'll go back out across the front and back out. The left side, which shows when you're coming around the back of the building, pulling up through to the drive-through. And you can see the angled parking in this direction here. And then on the right side where the drive-through is here, Plain Street would be on the left, and you'd come across through the drive-through lanes. And they're pretty, right now, this is the new model, I believe. So this is what the left-hand building would look like. And again, we haven't determined what the right building is going to be yet. So if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer any.
Thanks, Jim. Larry, do you want to give a brief explanation as to how your business operates? Lawrence?
Sure. First of all, good evening and thank you for having us. As John said, I'm the Director of Development for Lowell Development LLC. We have it's an LLC of a larger group called PN Restaurants, which is a family-run business started in 2006 by two brothers. Today, we have over 300 restaurants. We have 192 Popeyes. We are the second largest franchisee in the country. 17 of those Popeyes are located in the greater Boston area. Almost all of the Popeyes in the Boston area, if you've gone to a Popeyes, is probably ours. We currently have 7 locations other than this one that are in various stages of development in Boston. You know, we look forward to, you know, working with everyone and becoming hopefully part of the Lowell community. You know, we intend on employing at least, you know, 30 to 40 people. And you know, we like the area and we think that it would make a great location for Popeyes. I just like to point out a couple of things. Jim, I don't think that we were able to see your elevations if you were describing them as you were describing them. This is a new prototype for Popeyes. Currently, there are none in the Boston area. We are developing a few, so you'll be one of the first to have this new look. And if you're familiar with the old orange building of a Popeyes, this is much cleaner, much more modern. You know, personally, I didn't care for the old prototype, but you know, nobody asked my opinion. But this is a much cleaner, much more modern look, and I think would suit the community better. This is the storefront. We have a little wood, we have some brick, we have some ephes, various materials. The building is actually 1,990 square feet. 2112 is the prototype designation. It's not 2,112 square feet. So it's actually less than 2,000 square feet. But again, like Jim said, if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. You know, we look forward to your feedback and hopefully, you know, we can move forward.
Thank you, Lawrence. So, Mr. Chairman, we hope that we can get some valuable feedback tonight. And with that said, we're happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Any of the board members have any questions?
Chairman, I have a question.
Sure.
Can the applicant walk me through the ownership rights for Eaton Street? You said it's a private way. So does that mean with this plan you would be owning that street or that portion of the street?
Yeah, so Eaton Street between Plain Street and Montreal Street has been, any rights that the city had in the property has been discontinued, and currently the VFW owns both 190 and 198 Plain Street. So they own to the center of the lot. So they own Eaton Street between that stub, that area between Montreal and Plain Street. That is owned by the VFW. When Lowell Development purchases the property, they will own it. So there may be private rights to pass along that area, but it's owned by the owner of 190 and 198 Plain Street, whoever that might be. Right now, it's the VFW.
Okay, thank you. A couple more comments. Just looking at the plan, I think you need to take into consideration the residents who have properties along Montreal and Eaton Street. I see that there's dumpster storage to the rear of that second building. So just some kind of screening of some kind at the very least, preferably landscaping, I think would be beneficial. And then I do have a concern about the number of curb cuts. I know there is Eaton Street there, but you are adding another curb cut to, what is that, Plain Street right there? And that has the potential to cause traffic jams and just accidents in general. But those are my comments to the plan right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Anybody else? Shanae, you have any questions or comments?
I do just have a couple of comments. Generally, I think the plan is pretty straightforward. I would just like to see, these are kind of just reiterating some of the staff comments, but I would like to see it demonstrated how the plan complies with the requirement for open space and providing some trees on the site. I think that would be a great site improvement to this spot. I'm also in support of the staff's recommendation to remove those parking spaces along Plain Street to increase the open space and kind of improve the look of the building frontage on Plain Street. Also, I'm in support of reconstructing the sidewalk there as part of this development so that the sidewalks that are in place are fully ADA compliant. And it looks like right now on the plans, like there's some striping in between, or maybe material change between the shared parking lot and the Popeyes. And I think that's, I think it's really great because I don't know yet how busy that will be, but I expect it would be pretty busy. So I think really indicating that that's a kind of a pedestrian, where pedestrians are traveling between parking and the building, I think that's a good benefit to the site. And I guess kind of pending the traffic impact study, that will be interesting when we see that. And I guess just asking that the staff work with the applicant to clarify the parking requirement. I think that the applicant demonstrated that it meets the current requirement today, but in some of the comments it says it doesn't meet it. So I think it's clear to me now, but if we can have updated comments that say whether it's meeting the current parking requirements or not. I think in general there's a lot of parking on the site, so if that could just be super clear. And then finally, if they could just, in their updated material, maybe provide some information on how they propose to light the buildings or the sidewalks or the parking lots, that would be helpful. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shanae. Any other board members have any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I have
just
one
have a-
comment, Mr.
A
Chairman.
question relative to
Sure, Mr. Lockhart?
the capacity of the drive-throughs and a clarification as to what is the capacity in each case in terms of the number of cars? So,
Jim, is that a question you can answer?
I'm not, the capacity, you mean the queuing?
Yes.
yes, the queuing. What's the capacity of the queuing in each case?
Well, it depends on where we're counting from. And again, I'm not a traffic engineer, and the traffic engineer will handle this. We put these cars in here, which are about the size, which are pretty much the size of my Toyota 4Runner. Someone was asking if they were to scale in one of the planning board letters, and yes, they are. And my answers are, we're going to have queuing for at least 10 cars from the actual pickup. There's going to be probably 8, and you might be able to squeeze 2 more in here.
Probably, maybe, yeah.
To
Can I take a stab at that, Jim?
say that again?
Can I take a stab at answering that question?
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Lockhart, currently, the Popeyes on the left, 190 Plain Street, we're showing 12 cars in the drive-through. The brand standard is 5 cars from the pickup window to the menu board, and then 4 or 5 cars after. So that'd be 10 cars. You know, we're showing 12. You know, and in some cases, you know, we can get rid of that motorcycle parking and maybe add another car. But right now, we're showing 12, and that's a smaller building. The proposed second building, you could have cars that go all the way down, you know, to where that motorcycle and handicap parking is. You could probably add another 4 to 6 cars, and have, you know, maybe 16 to 18 cars in the drive-through at any one time. I would just like to preface that, you've all seen Dunkin' Donuts in the morning. I'm sure, I don't know if you're familiar enough with Chick-fil-A, but I assure you, we're not Chick-fil-A. We don't have that many cars in the drive-through at any one time. I wish we did. I'd be in the Bahamas right now. But, so this is approximately 12 cars, to answer your question.
Okay, I would just suggest that when it comes to your initial hearing, that you have those numbers together with justification as to what your capacity really is, that's all.
Thank you, Mr.
All I have,
Lockhart.
Mr. Chairman.
Is Bob or Caleb have any questions?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. How were they handling the, with the right-hand side of the property? I know this house is right after the property on Plain Street. Are they screening their property from the residential?
Well, the staff suggested that we do some screening over there, landscape and fencing, and we have no problem. That really, none of the comments from the staff were objectionable.
Okay. All right, that was my one question.
Thank you, Bob. Caleb? Any
Hi,
questions?
Chairman. Yes, I think I will concur with Russell's concern about curb cuts, and so we know that Plain Street is busy, and so I will have concern about both having multiple curb cuts on it and also left-hand turns, and I think if the applicant can consider to take advantage of the Tanner Street, I will think that signal will be that intersection could be signalized, then to divert those left-hand turn needs into the back. And also now that I understand that Eaton Street doesn't have to be aligned to the driveway, since I mean essentially the applicant owns it, then perhaps not aligning with Eaton Street might have some advantage. Let's say using the end of the parking lots that you double aisle parking lots here as the access instead. I see two problems here. Number one, you have people driving from the neighborhood might want to just directly go through it, and then you have traffic using your driveway to do left-hand turns there, and so I would like that to be minimized if possible. And also, if I somehow come from the neighborhood or use Tanner Street to do a left turn and then go around to go to Popeyes, the drive-through will be a U-turn. Immediately, I don't know how I'm line that up, other than cutting off other people. So that probably needs some thoughts there, whether there will be a barrier so that I'll U-turn at the end or some other schematics. So that's my observations. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Caleb. Mr. Fischett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Similar to Caleb's concerns, I'm looking forward to seeing the traffic impact study, and I would hope also to the applicant that he will be commenting on the flow within the site, because that's that I think potentially that's problematic as presented, but obviously we need to have a better understanding of how that would flow through the both sites and the right-of-way that's in the middle of the two sites. So obviously want to see the traffic impact study as it relates to entering and exiting the site, as well as circulation within the site. Because I think there, I think there still needs to be some work relative to the circulation within the site. Just, again, if looking for some input from the board, I obviously want to make sure that's all included in that traffic impact study, not just exit and entrances to the site and the impact to the surrounding area, but also circulation within the site.
Yeah.
And then I think you're in agreement with the comments from staff. I agree with a lot of the comments here, as Sinead had mentioned. I have a question, because the type of development you're looking at, that second building with the drive-through windows, I mean, those are typically chain stores, and they pretty much have a cookie-cutter look that they want. I'm just curious, are you in negotiations with another chain? By the time you come to us for an application, there'll be something more definitive, but it's not very often we see a building built in that nature with the drive-through not taking into account a corporate look of some sort of a chain takeout drive-through restaurant. So
Like they just illustrated for Popeyes.
Yeah, any clarification on that?
Yeah. Lawrence, you want to handle that?
Yes, to be honest with you, we are having some preliminary talks, but they're very, very preliminary. What we did for the use of this, what we did for the creation of the site plan was the Popeyes on the left-hand side is the smaller Popeyes prototype. What we used to illustrate the second building is the Popeyes larger building. So that is representative of another Popeyes larger prototype. Just used as an example, roughly 2,500 square feet, which is a typical size for a QSR. Whether it was KFC, Taco Bell, or whoever, or, Burger King, it would be around 2,500 square feet. So we just used that.
Now, to council, I guess the question would be, or to staff, I haven't looked at what you'll be coming to us for. Are you coming to us for site plan and a special permit, or just site plan?
It would be both. We need a special permit for the drive-through, I believe. Fran, is that correct?
Yes, you need a special permit for drive-throughs.
Right.
On
So it'd
both
be
sites.
both.
Yep, yep.
I just, again, when we start talking special permit, then we have, and that, the beauty of that is it does give us some latitude as to the aesthetics and how it'll look. I do have some concern not knowing what's going to be built in that other building. That would be the only concern that I would have, because really, we're voting. I mean, are you going to be providing elevations? Is it going to be then you'd have to come back to us if it doesn't meet that? What is your intention, Counselor, on that?
Well, we hope that we'll be further along in discussions by the time we submit our final application. However, if we're not, it's likely that we'll be able to decide upon or agree upon a building footprint, which will not, will fit whatever the other potential restaurateurs that may come in for that particular building. So Lawrence, is that fair to say that the prototype building that you're proposing there is something that one of the chains that you work with would use?
Yes.
So that building, the larger prototype is one of those chains that you mentioned would come in and take that building. So we could confidently propose that exact footprint without and knowing that that's going to be the final size and footprint of the building that's constructed there.
I'm sorry, John, I misunderstood you. It won't be the exact footprint because that's that's shaped for Popeyes, but the square footage would be approximately the same, and it would be rectangular in nature. So if you drew a rectangle box that had 2,500 square feet, it would roughly fit in that footprint. But this footprint shown is a Popeyes.
No, I understand. I guess if it was site plan review only, then I would understand exactly what you're saying. But when we incorporate special permit, we do like to take into account the aesthetics of the actually elevations of the building. And it does give us that latitude, and it does provide for the board to have a little bit more input as to the visibility and what that's going to look like. And it is on an arterial road, very visible. I mean, it's great use of the site. It's been a big surface lot for years with that building, so I like what you're doing. It's just that's an element of the proposal that I'm having some difficulty with. And again, that's why you're here for a pre-application, to get our input, so that's why I just want to kind of put that out there at this time. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you, very helpful.
I just have a couple comments. I mean, excuse me. I just have a couple comments. Number one, you got a good playbook here from planning staff of 6 pages indicating what you need, what you don't need, and the main thing comes out with the traffic concerns. That's by, even by the city engineer about Eaton Street. So I think that's going to have to be looked at very closely, which would be a traffic impact. But I think a lot of the comments that staff have brought out, I think they did an excellent job presenting you with all this information ahead of time. I know a lot of cities and towns would not do this for a preliminary, that's for sure. So, but I think looking at those, and I know Attorney Gary knows that the board weighs heavily on a lot of the comments that staff provides to us. They spend a lot of time with it, and I know council works with staff to try to work through these conditions or whatever comments they have. So I think basically it'll be interesting to see what Mr. Dirk has. We have a lot of confidence in him, and let's see what he can do to add to the traffic flow on site. I think he can fix, because the way it is now, the way you have cars going in and out through the parking lot, coming out through the queue, that's not going to work, I'll tell you that right now. But off-site, be interesting to see what happens. So those are my comments. Thank you. Anybody else? Anything else, Mr. Gary?
No, thank you very much. The discussion's very helpful. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to bringing forth a complete application that's acceptable to the board. So, thank you.
You're welcome, counsel. Thank you. Okay, moving along on the agenda. Did any board members have any notices or comments?
I have a
Mr. Lockhart?
report on the historic board. We had a meeting scheduled for March 14th for 733 to 735 Broadway Street, that I think is coming up to us soon. It's the Pilling Shoe Mill residence. And at that time, they asked for a continuation. And to accommodate them, we have scheduled a meeting for March 31st at 6 p.m., just to cover that item, to keep it moving. Our next historic board meeting is April 11th. So there'll be 2 meetings between now and April 11th.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lockhart. Any other board members have any comments?
I have a brief update for the Community Preservation Committee. We're meeting this Thursday, March 24th at 7 p.m., and it's our public hearing. So we're interested in hearing from the general public about what they would like to see, how they would like to see next year's funding allocated. And so it's open. It'll be held here at City Hall and also accessible via Zoom. And the staff are planning also to do kind of targeted outreach sessions in person in each neighborhood. I don't know the dates of those yet. I expect it'll be when the weather gets nicer, but so in addition to our public hearing, they're going to do some kind of working sessions in the neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from any board members? Hearing none, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's made and
Seconded.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Any, Chairman votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries. We are adjourned. Good night, and thank you very much, everyone.